Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show, another exciting guest. Now, this guest right here, she's an Indiana own. Even though she's in Florida, she's Indiana's own. And she's come all the way by Zoom to tell this remarkable story of beast mindset, of perseverance, of really creating your own narrative, so to speak. And she did it from a child, not even a child. Let's say she started homing in on her craft when she was a child, junior high, high school, pre-adult, and then now blossom into the beautiful woman that you see here. She's taken all of her traumas, analyze it, and turn it into that beast mindset of power. I'd like to welcome to the show Indiana's own Andrielle Mylin to the show. Did I pronounce her name right?
You did so good. Good job. A plus.
You shared a lot about your time here in Indianapolis, Greenwood, Southport area. Before we get into that, tell the viewers a little bit about who you are before we get into your journey.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just a small town girl. And so I grew up, just kind of in a rough situation. And I just really fought like heck to get out. I don't know what I can say, but fought like heck to get out of just the dysfunction. So I've been doing a lot of just inner work and healing after getting out of a couple toxic relationships. And I just feel like it's a never-ending journey of self-discovery and inner work and just healing, a lot of healing. I'm still on, the path forever. Yeah.
Now you grew up here in Indiana, in the Greenwood, Southport area, which is a really nice side of town. I mean, let's get real. Greenwood is nice. Little. Let me put it like this: it's that small town feel, but big city life. Yeah. What it is.
Yeah.
But you mentioned you grew up in a situation with an alcoholic mom, just toxic environment as a young lady. What was that like for you? And about what ages was all this stuff taking place?
Yeah, it was just so rough. And I feel like a lot of it is a blur almost. And I feel like I have a lot of blackouts even. There's things I can't remember, but the things I do are so traumatic. It's like, no wonder I wanted to block out so much. But my mom, she was an alcoholic just my whole life. And I also lived on the east side, with my dad, because my dad is good. My dad's good, and he tried his best. It was my mom that was a mess. So, but I grew up at like Wallace and Michigan.
Okay, I know where that is.
So that was rough there. So, but I just ran around with my friends, and we had fun, but it was just kind of rough. And then with my mom, it's like I had to take care of her, and I had to be the parent. I had to be the caregiver, and so she let me drop out of school when I was 16 because, what kid wants to go to school? So she just really let me do whatever I wanted. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I want to drop out. Even though I was a really good student, like I've always gotten good grades and always been a good student, right. But I'm just like, I don't want to get up early, all the kids stuff that kids think. So dropped out at 16, got my job at Steak and Shake. And then she would like steal my tips. She used to make me like buy her alcohol. She'd steal my tips, my money to buy alcohol with, or get her nails done, stuff like that. So, and then, she'd have moments of rage and outburst and just being violent. Like, I remember just one time, I was trying to get out of the shower, and she just like had a rage fit, and she busted in and just like starts wailing on me. And I just remembered like holding my towel up with one hand and trying to cover my face with the other hand. It was like things like that, just trauma.
Where was your dad? You mentioned spending
So
time
my dad,
with your
yeah.
dad. Did they have joint custody? Did your mom have full legal custody?
Oh, yeah. So this is a whole nother thing, was the custody battles, It was just constant. We were always having lawyers and police being called, and, because my dad's like, no, that's my daughter. He knew my mom wasn't right. Like, he tried and he fought, to get me and keep custody of me. But my mom just was very good at like being manipulative and manipulating the system. And she was a woman. So I feel like the system, gave her that favor of being a woman. So she just did a lot to where, and even me, like, I was sometimes like, oh, I want to stay with my mom because she lets me do what I want to do. But really looking back, it's like, no, my dad was the best place for me to be, but he did remarry. So, I have a stepmom, and she's great. She really tried, but she has two sons. So I have two stepbrothers, and then her mom was deaf. So she also lived with them. So it was like my dad's house was kind of like a full house. I felt like extra. I just felt like there wasn't room for me. And with my mom, it was like just me and my mom, and she let me do what I wanted. And I was just a kid. So I'm like, well, I can do whatever I want. But really, that was the worst thing.
You talk about we'll get into that later, but you talk about the word narcissistic personality. Do you think, with now that you're older and you look back, and nobody, this is a judge-free zone, so you need to not judge her mindset at that time. She was still a child, and when you're still 16 something old, you make these decisions. But now that you are older and you got yourself caught up in narcissistic relationships, do you think that your mom might, I know you're not a doctor, but do you think your mom might have demonstrated some of these same narcissistic behaviors as you was growing up, along with alcoholism, and she might have had other things that you was probably unaware of? What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that you even pointed at that out, because it is very similar when people are in alcoholism or any kind of addiction. It's actually very similar to like narcissism, and they have a lot of the narcissistic traits, because it's all about them. Everything is about them. When can they get their next fix or drink? Or so yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And then too, she was diagnosed with a lot of other mental, like bipolar. Yeah, she just has like a whole list. She's one of those.
How was she
Yeah.
diagnosed, if you don't mind me saying? Was it through the courts that maybe your father said, look, you know what, she's not a sound mind and body, and you guys ain't paying it any attention, maybe we should do a PPI or something and get her evaluated? How did
Yeah.
the evaluation even take place?
She actually has just always been one of those people that likes to go to the doctor. I feel like she likes having something wrong with her. And even when I was young, I feel like she was always trying to take me to the doctor. Like, she's always in nursing, they call it Munchausen's, and Munchausen. Yeah, and Munchausen's by proxy, where it's like always something wrong with them, always at the doctor. Or if they have kids, they'll do it to their kid too. And always like, something's always wrong. We need a pill. We need a note. We need a doctor's note. Every little thing over a sniffle, it's like, oh, go to the doctor. So she kind of just lives off the doctors. And now she's on government, like, housing and assistance. And stuff like that. So, and I feel like a lot of it is just from her alcoholism because she blames it on that she fell in love with a guy. And, after that breakup, she said she just couldn't handle it and turned to alcohol. But I will say she's in AA now. She's been in AA for about 10 years.
Wow, great.
Or maybe 11. I know. So it's like we've actually done a lot of work on repairing our relationship. And it's like now I can say she's one of my best friends now. Like I talk to her all the time, every day. So
when you're dealing with a narcissist, they have a tendency to not take accountability. And when people do things to us, sometimes to close those gaps, we really want to hear a validation. But in your case, you recognize that she has illnesses that clearly handicapped you at one particular moment of your life, but with strength and perseverance, you was able to overcome that. Has she ever came to you and said she's sorry about her behaviors? Because I'm pretty sure they had to tell her what she was diagnosed with.
Yes, she did. She has. And that was part of her whole journey with AA and, making amends with people. And so she did. But it took me time because there was a period of time where I didn't talk to her for probably 2 or 3 years at all. I just completely had to cut her out because I was trying to get through nursing school and working full time. And it's just always been a struggle. Like I've always just driven. It's like I just have to keep going and make something better. It's like I just have to, create a better life.
You're close to your dad, and I can tell you're still close to your dad. How did that impact him? We heard your side of the story, and I'm pretty sure your daddy's little girl. What does he share with you about all of that toxic stuff that you both went through? Because he was trying to protect you at the same time.
Yeah, he's really one of those, just kind of like a strong, silent type. And he's like goofy and silly and funny, and he makes people laugh. And, I know it was hard on him. And he tried to get me, he tried as hard as he could, but it's just, I don't know. I know he hated it for me, but he tried. But it's like he met my stepmom when I was 5. So he and my mom did break his heart, but because he just wanted to be married and he just wanted a family and he loved my mom. Like he just loved my mom, and she's the one that went crazy and left us and broke his heart. But so he did meet my stepmom when I was only 5. So they've been together a long time. So it's like, I'm really glad that he has her, because he deserves somebody to take care of him. And he's a truck driver. So he's just like a hardworking, he just puts his head down, goes to work, provides for his family. And he finally just got to retire. So he's enjoying that right now. So I know, I'm so happy for him. I'm like, he deserves it. And he loves just like playing the guitar in his garage. And he does his little studio, like he's got a little setup. So, he's just like a fun, free spirit, really. Now, but he's always been a good provider.
Now, along your life's path, you get into an adulthood. When did you think, by any means, now that you look back on the different relationships, which we're going to talk about, you mentioned that they were full of narcissistic personality disorders. When did the first relationship occur that you recognized this? How did you deal with it? And what were some of the signs that you saw in your first relationship? And where I'm going with this is you've had multiple relationships with multiple men, and all of them, unfortunately, to what you're saying, had the narcissistic personality disorder trait. So let's start with the first one. And more importantly, did you ever think that maybe because she is your mother, that maybe some of that DNA might have rubbed off on you, that maybe you picked these individuals and without subconsciously knowing that you still carry your mom's DNA blueprint?
Sorry. Yeah. I know, because everything really is subconscious, and it's crazy because even just the little things I do, I am a lot like my mom, and I see that. But it's like just our little mannerisms and how we talk and things like that. So I feel like I'm my mom, like I'm she could have been so great, you know? It's like she had so much potential and she could have been so great. And she let alcohol get the best of her. So it's like, I feel like I'm sent here to like finish my mom's mission, or like finish carrying out what she was supposed to do.
Right, right.
In a way. But so with the relationships, well, actually, too, this is a big part of my story, too. My first actual love of my life, like the love of my life, he was actually shot and killed over. It was silly, but it was like a neighbor dispute thing. Yeah, down around Southport area. So that we were to get, that was going on to 11 years. That'll be 11 years. So that was very just obviously traumatic. And that's something I still think about every day. And, you know, he was the one I was like, I always thought I would end up with. But we had our, you know, it wasn't always easy. But then it's too like, and I said if I ever got the chance, I would do a lot of things different looking back now, because I know I did a lot too. We both were just young. We didn't know, you know, how to be healthy together. But it was just a crazy love. Like we just loved each other, you know?
So
then
you said he got murdered over
Yeah.
some type of dispute.
Yeah.
How old were you when that took place?
So I would have been 26. And I met him when I was 16. So we didn't, like, we met when I was 16, but we really started dating when I was like 20. And so then we were like on again, off again, but we just always loved each other.
Were you there when this accident took place?
No.
So when somebody told you about it, how did you begin to react? Because your life is still coming out of.
Yeah, this is a good. Yeah. So this is crazy. But the night that it happened, I was laying in my bed, and you know, I had to be up early for work, and it was dark, and I had all the lights out. And I heard my name. I heard my name get whispered, like, Andrielle. Like, it was so clear. It was the whisper so clear. And so I'm like, what the, so I heard it that clear. I sat up out of my bed, turned all my lights on, looking around, because I thought, oh my God, I thought someone broke into my room. Because I did have like some weird neighbors at the time and stuff, kind of like stalkerish type thing going on. So I thought, oh no, someone broke in my room, and, that was it for me. But, no one was there. So I was like, weird. I went back to bed, and the next morning at work, my best friend texted me and she said, did you hear what happened? And I was like, no, what? But for some reason, I just knew. It's like I had a feeling in my pit of my stomach, like my heart knew. And she said, it was Josh. And I'm like, what happened? She's like, he was shot. And I said, well, is he okay? And she said, no. And so then that just went down a whole spiral of events. And I was just, crying all day, crying for a long time. And then I ended up going on Zoloft for a little bit even after that, because I'm like, I just couldn't, I just felt like I was in a cloud. Like I couldn't, it was so hard.
Did you have any emotional support? I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have any emotional support?
Yeah. Everyone knew how we, like, that we were just love, but, and his family and his sister and everybody. And he made a lot of people knew him. There was a lot of people at his funeral. It was like standing. He just made such an impact on so many people. And it was just he went to Whiteland High School. Okay. And it was just detrimental to so many people. But we're still, Like his friends and I were still friends on Facebook. So it's like we still talk sometimes and we keep in touch with each other's lives, and just being able to like see them and talk to them every now and then still makes me feel like closer to him. And it's like, I know that he's there. I know he's still there and around, but it's just one of those things that's just sad. It was rough. But, I think of that every day still. That's always a part of me every day. Like,
So how did you wind up? Now you moved on and you get into, let's say, your first adult like relationship. What were, because where I'm going with this is we're going to talk about your courses.
oh yeah.
You get into this. When did you start noticing flags in this? Let's call this your first relationship. When did
Okay.
you start noticing signs? What were some of the things that were being displayed?
Yeah. With Josh or with my marriage?
Your
I was
marriage.
married to an overt grandiose narcissist. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So he was an overt grandiose narcissist. And, the thing is,
Explain to the
too.
viewers real quick what that means, because they may not know
Okay.
the terminology.
Yeah. I know. I forget that I've learned so much at this point because I've been absorbing it for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the overt grandiose is they're loud and aggressive and they like confrontation. That's one of the differences. The covert narcissist is more subtle, they appear humble, they look like they have a lot of friends, and it's really much harder to tell with the covert narcissist. But so I went from overt to then covert. So okay, I'll explain the overt. And the thing is, they never start off obviously crazy, So, and he go.
It depends on what you consider crazy.
I know.
Now, if he takes you out on the first date to McDonald's, that might be a red flag.
Yeah, yeah. Right. No, so, well, I had known him actually a long time. We had been friends a long time, and I always knew he had liked me, but I just really didn't feel interested in him like that. But I finally got to the age where I felt, okay, it's time to settle down. I felt like I needed to be married, and he seemed like a good, stable choice because he was an IT guy. He had a son that he had full custody of. Just a stable job. He had a nice home in Carmel. So, he wore the button up shirts. I'm like, okay, I always picked the more bad boy type. So I'm like, I tried to go with a more what seemed like button up, straight lace type. And I'm like, he was one of the worst, really, because it was even more in disguise.
Right.
So, but yeah, so it was like, okay, time to be married. I thought he was a stable choice. And then he would just start doing things like, so much. There's just so much. Just devaluing me, like criticizing me constantly, belittling me. And then he would use his son against me. And like when it got really bad, he obviously didn't start off that way. But by the end, this is how bad it had gotten. He basically let his son, that was almost 18, run our household with his friends and do whatever he wanted. And he basically expected me just to be their maid and slave and cook and clean and do laundry. And we were just living completely separate lives by the end of it. Because, I wanted closeness and connection, and all he wanted to do was sit. Honestly, he would just sit in the garage and smoke pot all day. So, because he had gotten let go from his IT job. He had gotten let go. See, it's crazy how it's like a series of events that just leads to an explosion. But kind of long story short, he ends up getting us raided by the police, like actual raided, where our house was surrounded. Like it was one of the
Raided for what? Marijuana?
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of the craziest things. I almost passed out.
Was he a dealer? Was he a dealer?
See, no. He kept just enough, like he knew how much he could keep if he ever did get in trouble. He wouldn't get in trouble, And I do think it's silly because I think it's pot. Like, I just don't feel like it's that big of a deal, honestly. People do it everywhere all the time. And it's like, what's the big deal? Drinking alcohol is more dangerous, honestly. But, you know, so, but he started, when he got let go from IT, he started growing this hemp. He wanted to start trying to grow hemp and do CBD with it. So he kept having all these ideas. He was trying to be an entrepreneur. So he kept, like, we did a lot of avenues, and we ended up starting Airbnbs together also with my house that I bought with my money. But we turned that into our first Airbnb. And then, you know, but he was trying all these things. So the hemp thing didn't work out. It tested too high, and he was supposed to destroy the field. Well, he didn't destroy it all. He kept some. So it sat up in our attic for like a year. And all of a sudden, this guy reaches out because he had created a CBD website. This guy reaches out like wanting to buy this hemp all of a sudden. And I'm like, don't you think that's kind of weird? But no, he just, that's the thing with narcissists. They do what they want. You can't talk to them. Everything is their way or no way. It's like, there was no conversation. There was no compromise. There was no like coming to a decision that we're both happy with. It was always his way. If I didn't go along with him, you know, it would be tantrums, and he would just, I'd have hell to pay. So it's like, that's why I just got where I stayed in the bedroom for the last month probably before I moved out. Just get away from it all. But
what was the straw that broke the camel's back on that? You know, you're clearly seeing function. I know you had to go back to your childhood and stuff, but was that the moment when the police raided that you was like, hey, I'm not coming back? Did he go to jail and then you just left in the middle of the night?
He did not even go to jail. I was like, how did you pull that off? That's what I don't understand with these narcissists. I'm like, they get away with so much. They're so good at wearing a mask and fooling people. And he was all Mr. Nice and sweet guy with the police, you know, and the cops were worse to me than they were to him. And they sat me down. It was crazy. Sat me down, read me my rights, threatened my nursing license, like went through all my old purses, and there was like some antibiotics and weird stuff, purses I haven't seen for years, you know, and they're threatening me about what are these pills. I'm like, I don't know. That's 1,000,000 years old, you know? And he's like just thinking like I could control him or something. I'm like, I can't do any, like he does what he wants to do. Like I'm already at the point, like this is about the last straw. But then he also sold my car, kept the money. My car I had paid off with my money. He sold it, kept the money, and then told me I couldn't have a laptop. And then told his son he'd buy him a $10,000 car for he wouldn't even get his license. And then he was letting his son drive my car with no license. Then his son got followed home by the police because he should have been at school. So I'm just like, this was all happening right in the same month, probably. It was just like, it hit the fan big time all at once.
So did first of all, what was the police at your house for? Who told them to even come to your house?
Right. So that guy that reached out, he ended up being an undercover police. So, but we think maybe a neighbor called and complained about the smell, because he would always sit in the garage and smoke pot all the time with his buddy from high school. I'm like, gosh, grow up a little, you know? But so maybe the smell and the neighbors like tipped him off. So, but it was an undercover cop that reached out, and he was like asking if he sold pot or whatever. And don't let that out. But he was like, no, he doesn't. He didn't do that. Well, the guy's like, because I used the hemp and I cut it with my own pot. So then, that's what I need the hemp for. So then the guy was like, well, now he's out of his own pot, and asked my ex-husband if he knew where to get pot. And I'm like, now, is that not a red flag? I was like trying to tell him, this doesn't seem right. This seems suspicious. But so long story short, sorry, he ends up hooking up the undercover cop with the guy he did get his from, gets him busted as well, got him busted and arrested. I'm
Wow.
like, oh my God, we could have been like killed. Like he could have gotten us killed actually if they wanted to, like just drive by and shoot our house up. I'm like, he did it like bad. It's like, yeah, it wasn't like a little things. It was like a movie. It feels like it was a bad
So,
movie.
so looking at that particular relationship for the viewers, what were the three things that you, based on your experience, classified him as a narcissist that put your life in the situation it was in? What were at least three things so that the viewers would know?
Yeah. So one of the big things is the lack of empathy. They have no empathy. Like they can never put themselves in your position when you're trying to explain, this is how I feel. It doesn't matter. Nothing ever matters because everything is about the narcissist. It's always about the narcissist, which is kind of the classic, like that makes sense. That's what it is. Narcissism, always about them. And then they'll criticize you. So I would say, what did I say? What did I say? I'm getting
Well, the
off track.
degradation.
Yeah,
He was talking about you and undermining you and putting you down, and then the charisma,
no empathy.
personality.
Yeah, no empathy. It's always about them. And the criticizing and judgment. Like they're always judging everything you're doing. You can never do anything good enough. Nothing is ever good enough. And then they like to, it's called triangulation, where they use other people to make you feel jealous and insecure. Like he would say, oh, well, so-and-so's wife does it this way, or so-and-so's wife does that. And everything is to such extremes because I was either the best wife in the world or I was either the worst wife in the world. So that's actually what got me looking up. I'm like, there's got to be like something's wrong mentally. That's what I started. I was looking up bipolar because I'm like, he goes to such extremes. It's like I'm either the best or the worst. It's like everything is
So it's a hot and cold personality.
Yes,
He was dealing with.
So extreme.
So let's go to the next relationship.
Yeah. So this was the last one I just got out of.
how did that one pan out? And what attracted you to that, knowing that you had just left one, you lost someone to a senseless manslaughter. Let's call it a manslaughter, yes. But now you're at the final last one. So what led you to him? And then tell us about the narcissistic things that you went through in that relationship.
Yeah. So this one was so different. This was the covert. And think of covert operation, that's what they are. They're undercover narcissists. So nobody really knows except for the person at home that's being abused, basically. But so I ended up meeting him on my birthday. We met on my birthday. And, he was like tall and handsome and all the things I thought physically that I was looking for. But then too, like he fed right into that. Like he fed into my fantasy, I guess, we kind of created our own fantasy with these narcissists, and then they feed into it with the love bombing, and they pretend to be like everything you are and everything you have made them in your head. They just go ahead and be that because they're really empty shells and vessels of beings, They don't really have personalities. They're just, sorry, my dog. Okay.
That's all right.
But so I met him on my birthday and I was like, oh, this is it. My perfect person. Finally, I found my person. And he was very sweet and like he was attentive and all the things, because it was still love bombing. But then we moved very quickly, which is why I tell people, take it slow now. Like, don't rush it. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. You have to take it slow because by 3 months, I was already living with him. And that's how I ended up in Georgia. But I'm just like, what kind of a person would, do all this and bring you around all their friends and family? And he put me front and center. Everyone knew about me. So I just thought, I just never experienced that before with the love bombing, because my ex-husband didn't love bomb me really. It was just one of those things. We had known each other a long time. And
were you mesmerized by the sheer sign of another type of affection that maybe clouded
yeah,
judgment on what you was about to embark in?
yeah, the affection. I loved the affection. Yeah. And attention. He was very different than than the overt ex-husband. My ex-husband was not very lovey or touchy-feely or, cuddly. He was just he felt like a robot. He was more robotic. It was like a robot feeling, and just how he thought, like a computer mind almost. So with the covert, I felt like he was more of a real person, and just, I don't know. I just really did felt like I fell in love. I thought he was really it for me. And then,
So, yeah, when
about
did it change though?
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, 6 months. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. That's what Dr. Ramani says too. Dr. Ramani, she's like the leading psychologist when it comes to narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
So she's really good. But she says that it takes about 6 to 8 months for they can't hold it up longer than probably 8 months. So definitely take it slow. But he, just started, compulsively cheating. And so I was finding out things like that, but then they gaslight you and make you think you're crazy. And they're like, no, you didn't see what you saw. You didn't hear what you heard, And it's like, gosh, I had ring video footage. I'm like, pointing that out, but no, or they'll get in a rage and then, walk away. And it's like, you can never have a conversation. You can never come to any resolutions. And that's what they do. They keep you confused to keep you. That's what they say. They keep you confused to keep you and keep you in a fog. You're just in a fog. And then you get addicted to the cycle of the highs and lows. And it's an addiction. It's your body. It's the same chemicals as an addiction to a drug. So it's a whole process. Like, it's a whole thing.
When were you able to? Let me re-ask this question.
Yeah, sorry.
Did you have prior experience with meaning the definition of the narcissist personality disorder trait prior to going into any three of these situations, or did you learn about the situation of a narcissist personality disorder after all of the relationships?
After, yeah. Well, during my ex-husband, I learned about the overt grandiose narcissist. So I thought that's all there was to narcissism. I thought that was it. And then I ended up with the covert narcissist. And that's what, thank God for the content that is out there, because that's how I started realizing, I'm like watching videos and like, oh, well, he does these things. He does this. They're always the victim, because the covert is just so different. And that's what I say too. It's like, unless you've been in it with one, people don't get it. It's
which one is more, and I'm asking
dangerous
from your opinion, correct? Which one? All of it's dangerous if it's messing with your mental health. But which one has done the most damage to you? The endiosis, so however you pronounce it, or the other?
Yeah, this is a great question too, because emotionally, the covert is the last one that I just left from Georgia. He's the one that like emotionally just traumatized me. Like, oh, so much damage. That's when I started sharing my story. I was like, it just made me feel compelled to start sharing.
Give the viewers examples of what you're talking about, because we got two different personalities, but the question was which one had the most severe impact on you. You said it was the last one. What are some of the things, the covert, what are some of the things that handicap you that you got to deal with trying to get over?
Just like my heart breaking. I just really thought I loved him. I thought he was the one. I thought we were just going to live happily ever after the rest of our lives. You know, it was just like the feeling I got with them and the lifestyle we had together and the friends I made through him, and just, you know, just when he would cuddle me, it was just like the feeling of being held and loved. And it felt so natural. Like it just felt like it made sense, like it belonged. Like there was no question that he wasn't the person, you know, that I've been waiting for or whatever. But emotionally, he did the most damage. But my ex-husband, that was the overt grandiose, like physically, he did more damage. You would think that he would have caused me more trauma with getting us raided, selling my car, like just, you know, and he was abusive, like he was verbally and, you know, and he'd put his hands on me sometimes and throw me around a little bit. But it's like, well, but when I got back up in his face, like you just can't back down, because if you show fear, they get worse. So it's like when I'd stand up to him, you know, he would back off. But you'd think that he caused the most damage with all of that. But it was really the covert. It was the emotional damage. And he didn't ever fight. Like he wouldn't fight. He would ghost. They disappear. They ghost you. Like they don't ever have confrontation. They don't like confrontation.
So, you know.
Can I grab my dog? I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Don't. Be right back. Okay. Okay, sorry.
That's right. So before we wrap up, you now are addressing your experience with narcissistic personality relationships and people. My question to you, with breaking the trauma bond, you share with us a lot of your personal experience. What are some of the questions before we wrap up that some of the people are sharing with you that seems to be universal? Because usually if you're dealing with the grandiosis and you're dealing with the emotional, the other one, the covert narcissist, these patterns, like you said, should be consistent with all the relationships that people are sharing with you. But what are at least 3 of the most compelling coincidence that people are sharing with you on both sides, the grandiosis and the covert, that people are
Okay. Okay. So this is funny. Okay. This is weird. It's probably not going to be what you think, but actually they all seem to have in common where their eyes will go black. Like they'll get these black eyes. They just go black. And like everyone that's dealt with a narcissist says, yeah, mine did that too. They're all like, mine did that too. You can see it. It's like a change, a moment in their eyes when they just completely black out. And it's like you're dealing with something that's another entity. It's like a different force. So that was interesting, because that's one of the videos I had that went kind of a little viral, I guess. But everyone's like, couldn't believe that. And just from what I've heard from, you know, the content I've watched, they all do that. And then the other one that's interesting is that they really don't sleep. They don't have good sleep patterns. They're very just random. Like that's another, actually, I was going to make a video about that, but they're very random. They just will take off and start doing this or that out of nowhere. And there's just no rhyme or reason to what they do. It's like they're always trying to trigger you. They're always trying to trigger you and test you and push your boundaries. And it's just the weirdest ways that they come up with. It's just like always, and they just want control. That's another big thing, is the control. Because they would be down to where, like, my nails, tell me how to wear my nails, tell me how they like my hair. It's just so detailed of control. They just have, and you know, that's what I tell people. They don't miss you. They miss the control they had over you. Like they never cared about you. They didn't love you. And that's what you have to realize, the reality of the situation. They never loved you. They didn't care.
How
So,
difficult is it to break? And how difficult is it breaking the trauma bond, in your opinion? How difficult is it? Is it a hard process? And more importantly, before we wrap up, why do you think people stay in this? I mean, is it that
right. You're right.
they're not aware of what a narcissist personality disorder is, or they're not aware of emotional trauma? What's your theory on this?
Yeah, I think people, maybe they just don't know, and they think they're dealing with a normal person, that they think they can change them, or they'll change one day, or if they love them enough, it'll get better. And it's like, no, not when you're dealing with a narcissist. And really, I feel like the whole world is just starting to get to the point where we're all realizing, I feel like there's just a huge awakening happening with, the collective. And it's like people are realizing toxic is toxic. You shouldn't have to sit here and go over and over and over with your partner about how they're not treating you right. It's like, if they can't figure it out, you have to be happy alone. You have to be okay and happy with yourself. And love comes from within yourself. You can't go looking for that in other people. So that's something I feel like people need to do first. Like, love yourself and find it within yourself and be happy.
So before we wrap up, what have you found? What has your life been like now? You're definitely going onto the social media, trying to teach people how to break the trauma bond curse. But more importantly, you've gone through a lot of things yourself. You're still young. Happy belated birthday. You just had a birthday.
Thank you. I'm a Pisces.
How do you, with everything that you've gone through, you had to forgive close family members. You had to forgive the loss of your first love. You had to overcome the first Andy Grandiosis, and you had to overcome the covert black op situation. And now you're sharing your wisdom and expertise with others. How is your life right now? I think that's what I would be more concerned about. What's your mental health like?
Yeah. So that's my big thing right now is, after the narcissist, it's like isolation. A lot of people end up in a period of isolation, which you really should. Because if you've been with one narcissist, especially two, it's like, okay, you need to start looking inside, and there's something going on, and you've got a lot of healing to do. So the isolation is really necessary. Like, at all. Everyone should go through that and just look within, do the inner work, and be single. Don't worry about dating. So that's how I've kind of felt. Like, I wasn't worried about dating, and I'm kind of not really too worried about dating now. I'm just still going through my own courses of healing and different things, just really digging deep still, and, maybe tiptoeing back into dating a little bit. But because the thing is, you can do so much healing in isolation, but you're not going to know how healed you are until you get back out there and start getting triggered again, because dating is going to be a whole nother can of worms.
I'm not gonna get into how to recognize all that, because if they want to know, you also offer a course. How can the viewers know about your course and reach out to you?
So well, my all my social medias are just live well with ELLE _ So that's all of them: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I have a Facebook of that. So that's my social media, all the same. And then I've got my link. All my links are in my link tree. So there's the course they can go to. They can book a call. They can send it. There's like an email option. So, or they can just send me a DM too. I really try to get back to the people that send me, messages. And
what can a person expect from you when they reach out to you? What can they expect that's going through something? Like, what can they expect to get when you reach out to them about what they're going through?
Yeah. So usually I like to set it up where we do at least like a 3-month program. So that way there's someone holding them accountable because it's about them and their healing. But, and there is an option to do one call, but it's like to get the most benefit, you really want to be in a program where someone can hold you accountable to, are you doing the things you're saying you want to do to heal? And sometimes you just need someone to hold you accountable. But it's like just going through like what are their goals? What's the reality they're in now? What kind of options do they have? And like what's the way forward? So just things like that, just going through that. And then there's things like I can help with meditations, breath work, journaling prompts, affirmations, things like that have been really helpful for me as well. Doing, grounding.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what? Thank you so much for taking time to share a great story and empower our audience with your definitely beast mindset transformation out of the land of narcissistic personality relationships. Guys, make sure
Crazy.
you reach out to her. Let us know when you're coming back to the beautiful state of Indianapolis, Indiana, Wood,
Yeah.
Southport, East Side, the whole 9 yards. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another
All
exciting
over.
episode of the Andre the Beast.
Yeah. Thank you for
Great.
having me. Thank you so much.